She was just a laundromat worker with worn shoes and quiet dreams, until one spilled glass of wine changed everything. Naomi Carter never expected to dance with a billionaire, let alone challenge his boardroom, his world, and his heart. But what began as an accident became a journey of love, courage, and defying expectations. This isn't just a romance. It's about finding your voice when the world tells you to stay silent. Who is Naomi, and how did she capture the heart of a man who'd forgotten how to feel? Tell us, where are you watching from? Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. The silver clatter of trays echoed in the service corridor of the Grand Astoria Hotel, just beyond the double doors that separated the real world from the fantasy one unfolding in the ballroom. Naomi Carter adjusted the snug collar of her server's uniform and winced as the borrowed heels dug into her heels like sharp-edged reminders of everything she didn't have. At 32, she was no stranger to service gigs, banquets, weddings, fundraisers. But tonight felt different. The Westwell Foundation Gala was the social event of the season, attended by billionaires, politicians, and socialites who dined beneath golden chandeliers while pretending not to notice the people who kept their champagne glasses full. Jenny, the catering supervisor, made the rules clear before sending them out. Keep your head down, don't speak unless spoken to, and for heaven's sake, don't make eye contact with the guests. You're here to serve, not be seen. Naomi nodded, tucking a few stray curls under her cap and glancing down at the wine-stained apron she'd managed to clean as best she could. The shoes, borrowed from her neighbor, pinched with every step. Her own pair had finally given up last week, soles flapping like fish. Her paycheck would go toward overdue rent, her grandmother's medication, and maybe, just maybe, new shoes if nothing else broke first. "You okay?" Marco, another server, whispered as they stepped into the ballroom's edge. He was assigned to the other side of the room, but always made time to check in. "Just 6 hours on my feet in these medieval torture devices," she muttered. He grinned. "Think of the overtime." Naomi inhaled sharply as she stepped fully into the ballroom, blinking against the dazzling light. The room looked like something out of a dream, cascading crystal chandeliers, silk-covered tables adorned with fresh orchids, and soft music swirling through the golden air. Outside the towering windows, the harbor glimmered beneath the stars. For 1 second, Naomi allowed herself to feel it. The magic, the possibility. Then Marco's voice snapped her back. "You've got Section 3, including the host table." Her stomach dropped. "The host table? You mean Dominic Westwell himself? Try not to drop anything." Dominic Westwell, billionaire CEO. The man whose financial firm practically controlled the market. He was more myth than man, known for his ruthless precision and the grief that clung to him like smoke since his younger brother's death 2 years ago. Naomi had never seen him in person, but stories about him floated through the media, always alone, never smiling. She nodded and balanced her tray, slipping into the ballroom with practiced grace, her face a mask of neutrality. Naomi moved through the crowd like a shadow, invisible by design. She offered flutes of champagne to men in tuxedos and women in gowns that probably cost more than her annual income. No one looked at her, no one thanked her. That was the point. Until he arrived. A hush rippled through the ballroom as Dominic Westwell entered. Naomi didn't need to look directly to feel it. His presence was a gravitational force. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair flecked with silver and a tailored tuxedo that fit like armor. He moved with quiet power, shaking hands and nodding politely, his expression unreadable. There was a tension in his posture, as if he were enduring the event rather than attending it. "That's him," someone whispered behind Naomi. "They say he hasn't dated since his brother died." Naomi dared a glance, just long enough to see the faint shadows under his eyes, the rigid set of his jaw. He looked lonely, out of place, even here. The rest of the nast in a blur of serving, smiling, and aching feet. Naomi was mid-stride, balancing a tray of deep red wine glasses when it happened. A young server, clearly new and nervous, backed up too fast and collided into her. The tray tilted. She gasped. Time slowed as the wine arced through the air and splashed across Dominic Westwell's pristine white shirt and custom tuxedo. The room froze. Naomi's heart plummeted as silence swallowed the music. Every eye turned to her. Her face burned. She scrambled for a napkin, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry, sir. Please, I'll get the manager. But Dominic didn't yell, didn't recoil. He simply looked at her, unreadable. Then he did something no one expected. He took the tray gently from her hands, set it aside, and said in a voice low but firm, "It's just a suit." He paused, then added, louder this time, "But you look like you could use a dance." Naomi blinked. Surely she'd misheard. Gasps followed as cameras clicked. The entire ballroom seemed to lean closer. Dominic Westwell, the man who hadn't smiled in years, extended his hand to the woman in the stained apron, and Naomi, breathless and trembling, took it. The next morning, Naomi Carter stood outside the Suds and Spinners laundromat, her fingers numb not from the cold, but from the surreal weight of the night before. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dominic Westwell's face, calm, composed, offering his hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It had felt like a dream, a weird, incredible, champagne-scented dream. Now standing in front of the same dull yellow sign that hung crooked over the laundromat door, reality was creeping back in, the kind with bleach stains and coin machines that always jammed. Her phone buzzed again. A fourth coworker had messaged her, forwarding a clip from the gala that had apparently exploded online overnight. Naomi hadn't even dared look at it yet. The moment she'd been dragged onto the dance floor, her in that rumpled apron and borrowed heels, had gone viral. Some were calling it romantic, others called it desperate. A few choice comments accused her of scheming, trapping a vulnerable billionaire in a pity dance. She'd shut her notifications off by the time she reached the break room, hoping the spin cycle of laundry would drown out her anxiety. At precisely 9:04 a.m., a black SUV pulled up in front of the laundromat. She saw the vehicle's reflection in the washer window first, and her heart skipped before her brain caught up. No, it couldn't be. But it was. The door opened, and out stepped Dominic Westwell, dressed in jeans and a gray sweater that probably cost more than her entire week's pay. His hair was slightly tousled, like he hadn't had time to let someone fix it. He looked around, spotted her through the glass, and smiled. Naomi froze, heart in her throat. He didn't belong here. Among the detergent fumes, the flickering ceiling lights, the rows of chipped folding tables. He was a man made for boardrooms and private jets, not low-income laundromats in East Queens. Still, he walked in like he'd done it 100 times. "Good morning, Naomi," he said, as though greeting her here was the most ordinary thing in the world. She blinked. "Mr. Westwell, what are you doing here?" "I figured we had a conversation to finish," he said, glancing around with amusement at the buzzing dryers and plastic chairs. "I'm working," she said quickly, as if saying it aloud would remind both of them how ridiculous this was. "I can't just leave." Dominic stepped closer, his voice lower now. "What time do you get off?" "4. Then I'll come back at 4. Naomi blinked again. She wasn't sure what stunned her more, his persistence, or the fact that someone like him remembered such an ordinary detail from their brief coffee chat at the gala. Before she could gather a response, he handed her a small, elegant business card. "My personal number, in case you change your mind." Then, without another word, he walked out, the door chiming softly behind him. Naomi stood rooted to the floor, her fingers wrapped around the card like it was burning a hole through her skin. Inside the back room, Mrs. D, her boss and part-time cashier, peeked out. "Was that who I think it was?" Naomi quickly shoved the card in her pocket. Just a mix-up." The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Naomi folded shirts with trembling fingers, pretended not to feel the eyes on her from across the laundromat, and ignored the buzz of her phone still lighting up with messages. During her lunch break, curiosity won. She pulled up the video. There it was. Her and Dominic spinning beneath the chandeliers, a halo of light around them. In slow motion, his hand gently on her waist, her laugh, his rare smile. The comments ranged from modern-day Cinderella to "get this girl a stylist ASAP." Some were cruel, yes, but some were kind, people rooting for her. Strangers saying they hadn't seen him look that alive in years. When 4 o'clock came, Naomi was folding towels, telling herself he wouldn't show. But the SUV returned, and this time Dominic didn't wait outside. He stepped into the laundromat again, nodding politely to Mrs. D before walking straight to Naomi. "Coffee?" he asked, like they were just two co-workers finishing a shift. She hesitated only a moment. "Okay." 20 minutes later, They sat in a small corner cafe with mismatched mugs and old newspaper clippings taped to the walls. Naomi stirred her coffee slowly, her nerves finally starting to settle. "You didn't have to come back," she said. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to." She searched his eyes, trying to find the catch, but there was none. Just a man sitting across from her like she was worth being seen. And for the first time in a long while, Naomi began to wonder if maybe she was. Over the next 2 weeks, Naomi and Dominic fell into a rhythm that felt surreal and strangely natural. He called her every evening, no matter how late his meetings ran, and often found time between boardrooms and charity luncheons to meet her for quick coffees or walks through the quieter streets of the city. Sometimes they strolled through used bookstores or sat side by side on Naomi's rooftop, sharing stories as the skyline blinked around them. Naomi tried not to let herself believe it too deeply, but with every passing day, it felt less like a fantasy and more like something possible. Still, shadows lingered. The world outside wasn't as forgiving as their quiet corners. One evening, Naomi met Dominic at a little Italian place near her apartment. Cozy, no paparazzi, just checkered tablecloths and garlic bread that tasted like a warm hug. But as soon as she walked in, she saw her. Sitting at their table. Hair perfectly curled, lips lacquered in deep red, a gown that shimmered like frost. Celeste Rayner. Naomi's steps slowed, her heart began to pound. Dominic stood abruptly, guilt flashing across his face. "Naomi, I didn't know she was coming." Celeste turned, her smile sharp and polished. "So this is her," she said with a low, mocking lilt. "The Laundromat muse." Dominic's jaw clenched. "Celeste?" "What?" she asked, tilting her head, still seated, her fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass. "I had to see it for myself. The woman who spilled wine and spun her way into your heart. I must admit, it's quaint." Naomi stiffened, gripping the back of a nearby chair. "I should go." "Naomi, wait," Dominic said, reaching for her. But she pulled away gently. "No, really. It's fine. You two obviously have things to talk about." She turned before her voice could crack, pushing the door open and stepping out into the cool night. The air hit her like a slap. Her lungs tightened. She walked fast, heart in her throat, too full of emotions to sort any of them properly. Hurt, embarrassment, disbelief. She'd only made it halfway down the block when she heard his footsteps catching up. "Naomi." "Don't," she said, not turning around. He stepped in front of her, hands out like he was trying to calm a storm. "I swear, I didn't invite her. She just showed up." Naomi met his eyes, searching for some sign that this wasn't all spiraling out of control. "She called me your charity case. Because she's bitter." "Maybe. Or maybe she's right." Dominic's expression faltered. "What are you talking about?" "I don't belong in your world, Dominic," she said quietly but firmly. "I fold laundry in a back room with a broken heater. I work extra hours to buy discounted meds for my grandmother. People like Celeste don't just get to say things like that, they believe them. And I'm starting to think, maybe I do too." "Naomi," he said, his voice aching. "Don't do this. I'm not doing anything. I'm just waking up." Back in her apartment later that night, she avoided every news site and social platform. But she knew the whispers were growing louder. Her name had been mentioned in gossip columns. The Cinderella server. The viral girlfriend. Her landlord casually asked if she was planning to move into bigger digs. Her coworker at the laundromat asked if she could introduce her to any single CEOs. The pressure wrapped around her like a tightening cord. It only got worse when Mrs. D handed her a business card someone had dropped off. No name. Just an embossed logo. Harrison and Associates, Private Investigations. She didn't need to guess who sent him. It had Westwell fingerprints all over it. That evening, when Dominic came to visit, she didn't open with a hello. She handed him the card. He didn't even look surprised. "Harrison." "Why?" Naomi asked, folding her arms. "What does he think he'll find? That I'm secretly married with 6 kids and a drug habit?" "He's afraid," Dominic said tightly. "Not of you, of what you mean for me, of what I might do if I keep choosing you over the company." "And will you?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Every time." Naomi looked away, struggling to keep her walls from caving in. "I don't know if I can keep walking into rooms where everyone sees me as a threat or a scandal." "I know it's hard," he said, stepping closer, "but we can face it together." "I'm scared," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "So am I," Dominic replied. but I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." And for the first time that day, Naomi let herself believe he meant it. The next morning, Naomi stood at her mirror adjusting the simple navy blue dress Dominic had helped her pick out an hour ago. It wasn't designer. It came from a department store clearance rack, but it made her feel steady, clean, capable. Her hair was pulled back into a twist, her earrings small and practical. She looked like herself, only stronger. The woman staring back wasn't a server in a stained apron anymore. She was someone walking willingly into the storm. Across the city, in the glass tower of Westwell Capital, Dominic paced a marble hallway, his phone buzzing nonstop with messages from legal teams, PR reps, and shareholders. Harrison had called an emergency board meeting. The rumors were true. Westwell's largest client, the Everland Group, was threatening to pull their $300 million portfolio over leadership instability. In other words, because Dominic Westwell had chosen to date a laundromat girl. When Naomi arrived, the security guard at the front desk already knew her name. He gave her a respectful nod and directed her to the top floor. The elevator ride was silent, save for the hum of her pulse and the weight of everything about to unfold. When the doors opened, Dominic was waiting, looking both tense and proud. "You came," he said softly. Naomi nodded. "Let's not keep the wolves waiting." The boardroom looked like something from a courtroom drama. Long mahogany table, sleek leather chairs, and 12 board members in expensive suits, all watching her as if she were the test subject in an experiment. Harrison stood at the head of the table, as poised as ever, with a thick folder in front of him and that smooth, practiced smile Naomi was beginning to despise. "I wasn't aware we'd be having guests," Harrison said, though his eyes had clearly expected her. "She's not a guest," Dominic said evenly. "She's my partner. If we're going to dissect my personal life, she deserves a seat at the table." Naomi sat beside him, folding her hands calmly in front of her. Her voice, when she spoke, surprised even herself. "I understand how this looks. A billionaire CEO dating a woman who scrubs wine stains and folds towels for a living. It's not conventional. But the truth is, I never asked for this attention. I didn't plan to spill wine. I didn't ask for cameras, and I didn't ask for love." Several board members shifted uncomfortably. "What I did ask," Naomi continued, "was to be seen. Not for status. Not for money. Just as a person. And that's what Dominic did. He saw me." Harrison's voice cut in, sharp. "Miss Carter, while your remarks are touching, this isn't a fairy tale. It's a business with obligations to shareholders. No one understands responsibility better than someone who's juggled rent, groceries, and her grandmother's prescriptions all in one week." Naomi replied, her tone measured. "This company wants stability, but you're mistaking image for substance." Eleanor Gray, the eldest board member with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing, leaned forward. "I've watched Dominic for years. He built this company from scratch. But after his brother died, something changed. He showed up, but he wasn't present. Since he met Naomi, I've seen that light return. And frankly, I think we need more of that around here." Murmurs of agreement rippled down the table. Not all, but enough. Even a man 2 seats down, someone who hadn't made eye contact with Naomi once, cleared his throat and said, "Let's not forget the Everland Group has made threats before. They've always come back." Harrison's face was composed, but his eyes were cold. "This is a risky precedent. The only thing at risk," Dominic said, rising to his feet, "is allowing fear to dictate our choices. I won't step down. And I won't apologize for who I love." The vote followed. One by one, hands were raised. 7 in favor of Dominic's continued leadership. 3 abstained. 2, Harrison's among them, voted against. It was over. As the room emptied, Naomi felt Dominic slip his hand into hers. He turned to her with quiet awe. "You were extraordinary." "I was terrified," she admitted, her voice cracking slightly. "But you didn't let it show," he said, pulling her close. "You stood your ground in front of people trained to intimidate." Outside the building, photographers waited, flashbulbs popping like firecrackers. Naomi hesitated at the glass doors. "You sure about this?" Dominic turned to her, lifted her hand to his lips, and said for everyone to hear, "I love you, Naomi Carter, and I don't care who's watching." The clicks grew louder, but Naomi no longer cared. She was done hiding. She had walked into a boardroom as someone they thought didn't belong, and walked out as someone they couldn't ignore. 6 months later, Naomi Carter stood at the threshold of the same ballroom where it had all begun, where a spilled tray had rewritten her life. The chandeliers sparkled just as they had that night, casting their golden glow over silk-draped tables and guests in glittering gowns. But this time, she wasn't wearing an apron or scanning the room from behind a tray. She wore a midnight blue gown that skimmed her frame like it had been stitched for confidence itself. Simple, elegant, hers. Her hair was swept into a soft twist, and on her wrist was a delicate silver bracelet, Dominic's gift, engraved with the date of their first dance. She took a deep breath and walked into the room. Beside her, Dominic Westwell offered his arm, looking devastating in a tailored tux, though he leaned toward her with a quiet smirk. "Still thinking about running?" "Only if I trip on this hem," Naomi replied, her smile tugging free despite the nerves. The whispers started, of course, but they were different now. There was recognition in the eyes that followed her. Respect. Over the past few months, Naomi had returned to college, her scholarship finally approved, and had begun volunteering at the Noah Westwell Center, now a thriving program offering mentorship and training to single parents, returning students, and people just like her. And people had noticed. Margaret Whitfield, the formidable board member who'd once sat stone-faced across the table from her, crossed the room to greet her with a genuine smile. "Naomi, I hear your workshop on financial literacy has been a hit. You may have to run the foundation before long." Naomi laughed nervously. "Let me graduate first." Even socialites who had once dismissed her now hovered politely, curious, cautious. Some asked about the center. Others asked about her dress. A few even asked if she'd consider consulting on community outreach. But not everyone offered pleasantries. Across the room, Celeste Rayner appeared, swathed in a shimmering gown, her expression unreadable. Her eyes locked with Naomi's, assessing. Dominic noticed too. "Want to say hello?" Naomi hesitated only a second. "Actually, yes." Together, they approached. "Celeste," Dominic said with polite formality. "Dominic," she returned. Then her gaze flicked to Naomi. "Miss Carter." "Celeste," Naomi said evenly. "That color looks great on you." A flicker of surprise crossed Celeste's face. Genuine or not, Naomi couldn't tell, but she nodded. "Thank you." Her gaze lingered. "I didn't think you'd last." "Neither did I," Naomi admitted, her voice even. Celeste paused, then raised her glass. "Well, congratulations on proving me wrong." She moved on, and with her went the last trace of doubt Naomi had carried. That voice, the one that had whispered she didn't belong here, finally quieted. Dominic turned to her, proud. "Dance with me?" This time, Naomi didn't hesitate. The orchestra swelled and they moved across the floor like they belonged nowhere else. She followed his lead not because she had to, but because it felt right. They moved as partners, as equals, no longer caught in someone else's narrative, but writing their own. As the waltz ended, Naomi spotted a woman standing near the edge of the dance floor, watching, calculating. Her expression sent a ripple of unease down Naomi's spine. "Who's that?" she asked quietly. "Caroline Westwell," Dominic replied. "James Westwell's wife." The Everland Group did pull their account just as Harrison predicted. "I'm sorry," Naomi said. "Don't be. We replaced that business twice over. Harrison underestimated us." Caroline approached, her smile fixed and sweet as syrup. "Lovely event," she said smoothly. Then, in a voice just loud enough to carry, "You really think this will last, Dominic? She was the help. She still is." Naomi's breath caught. The room stilled. But before Dominic could reply, Naomi did. Calm, clear. "I was, and I'm not ashamed of that. Hard work doesn't diminish a person's worth, it proves it." The tension cracked like glass. Then Dominic, with deliberate pride, took her hand. "We're here to let people see what love looks like when it's earned, not bought." And before the crowd he kissed her. Tender, certain, true. Applause followed, not from everyone, but enough. Later, as they stood on the rooftop balcony overlooking the harbor, Dominic handed her a small velvet box. Naomi's breath caught, expecting a ring. But inside was a key. She looked up, puzzled. "It's to the rooftop," he said. "Your favorite place. I bought the whole building. We're turning it into affordable housing for single parents returning to school. But I kept the rooftop, so it's always open, so people always have somewhere to go and dream." Naomi's eyes filled. "That's the most perfect gift anyone's ever given me." "There's more," he said gently. "But only when you're ready." She closed the box slowly, her fingers tracing the tag. She didn't need a fairy tale ending. She had something better, something real, something she'd fought for, and something worth every moment of being seen. Sometimes, life doesn't give you the perfect beginning, but it gives you the chance to rewrite your ending. Naomi's story reminds us that no matter where you come from, your worth isn't defined by your job title, your income, or the clothes you wear. True strength lies in how you carry yourself when the world tries to overlook you. She didn't seek fame, fortune, or a fairy tale. She simply wanted to be seen for who she truly was. And in doing so, she not only changed her own life, but helped someone else rediscover theirs. Dominic, despite all his wealth, had been sleepwalking through life until he met someone who dared to challenge his comfort zone and speak the truth without fear. It's a reminder that love, when it's real, doesn't care about class, money, or image. It cares about character, honesty, and connection. The most powerful relationships aren't built in ballrooms or boardrooms. They're built in quiet conversations, in mutual respect, in showing up when it's hard, and in choosing each other, even when the world watches with judgment. So wherever you are in life, whether you're climbing the ladder or just trying to get through the day, remember this: you are enough. You deserve to be seen. And sometimes, the person you least expect is the one who sees you the most clearly. Now I'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more powerful, heartfelt stories just like this one.